Hey, how y'all doing? One of the cool things I wanted to talk about, or at least share with you guys, in hopes that it helps for anything that you guys might be going through throughout the next couple months, with stress and everything like this, just problems, any issues that go on, maybe even good stuff too. I hope it's a helpful idea, and maybe you can take it and make it your own in some way. A lot of times I'm talking to clients, and we talk about this self-talk that we come across. Certain situations, whatever problems they're dealing with in their life, self esteem issues, anxiety, depression, stress, anger, family issues, relationship issues, maybe workload, schoolwork, schedule issues, no schedule issues, no job, crazy job, whatever, just whatever their issues are. A big thing we focus on is that self talk. How do you navigate through the reality that you exist in when it comes to the narration? Who's narrating, right? We watch movies and stories and stuff, and in a cool way, we're like witnessing a story. And I like talking to clients in therapy a lot about like, what's your story? What's going on with the current story? What chapter are we in? What is being described, etc. Like mainly, what are you thinking, right? What's going on and how you think and what you do. And so we'll sit there and talk about this idea of the self-talk. Right? The self-talk, what is it? Like, so, imagine the problems that you might be going through, right? Or the problems in your life that get a little worrisome for you, where you get anxious or you get stressed. Maybe you get sad. Maybe you feel alone. Maybe sometimes you feel, uncertain. Maybe you feel rejected. Maybe you feel abandoned. Maybe sometimes you just feel angry, really, really angry. Maybe other times you just feel like nobody gets it, right? Whatever these moments are, there is this like talk we're having. We're sitting there thinking about everything, and we have to look at that as some kind of way that we're talking to ourselves. A lot of times I talk to clients about, having like your little angel and demon, your super ego, your id, and then your ego, you. What is you? And where exactly are you making decisions from? What part of your consciousness are you making choices from? And there's a lot of mix to that consciousness, your personality and all this stuff. And a lot of influences with morals and values and goals and stuff like that. So we talk about the relationship with the self. And it's funny how sometimes you might think about those moments that I'm talking about, think about those for yourself. And maybe you think back like, yeah, I'm not the most nicest person, or maybe I'm not the most gentle individual talking to myself when I think about what's being said in my head or how I'm saying it with what I'm seeing. You might sit there and think about negative self-talk where you're like, oh, I'm so stupid, I'm stupid. Or, I messed this up, or I'm not going to make this, or, man, it's going to go terribly wrong. Or what's the point of this? Everything's going to be screwed up in the future anyways. Maybe it's, man, I'm really terrible. Or this person, maybe it's this person's always like this. Or they're always doing this, right? But there's this talk that we're saying, that we're focusing on, And that relationship with the self is important to really unfold and nurture and work out and heal, etc. Keep in check sometimes. And so we talk about self-talk and all those moments where we're having those little intimate moments by yourself where it's just you and your brain talking about what's going on. I try to use a metaphor with clients about how to like look at it a little better. When I start talking about this, I don't know how often maybe you guys talk about thinking in this way or how this happens to us, just the way we talk and think, what we listen to make our choices with any of your friends or family or in your own professions if you talk about these things. And maybe it's fitting, right? We got Halloween coming up, my favorite season, or my favorite holiday, sorry, and my favorite season. I love fall, but Halloween coming up, maybe it's very fitting for the holiday. Think of it like curses and spells, right? I think of that magic, and think of curses and spells, and think of it like as the current way that you talk to yourself. Right? The current way that you talk to yourself in these moments where you're stressed or where things go wrong or you make a mistake or something unexpected happens or somebody wrongs you, or somebody does something that you're assuming is offensive, but you really don't know where it's coming from. You're just assuming because of what it means to you. Any and all these moments, right? All these random moments where you are not in a good space. You want to start looking into the scope of what's that self-talk like, right? Am I saying a curse, or am I trying to cast some kind of spell? Let me explain. So when I talk about those moments where maybe you do identify with something where you don't talk very good to yourself, right? You say, oh, I'm so stupid about this, or man, I really effed that up, or man, why do I always end up like this? Or how come they're always thinking of me like that? Or why don't they ever care about XYZ? Think of that as the curse, right? Why do I say that? Because it's something that maybe you've said over and over again. And this is really what I'm really focusing on, these things. And maybe they apply to the other stuff too. But when I talk to clients about this, it's because we're talking about that common thing that comes up in these stressful moments. That common mentality, that common attitude, that common self-talk. It's like a curse. After a while, it becomes this catchphrase, this statement, right? And it's like a curse. It's this thing that you say. And when you say it, it's like, like, what is it? I was just saying this to somebody the other day and butchering the heck out of it. But it was like that, the curse spell in Harry Potter, Havaticus or whatever. See, you're all going to hate me for saying that. But like, whatever, right? A terrible spell. You sit there and say it and you know exactly what. That's the death spell. That's the curse spell, whatever it is. And for us, it's more realistic. It's like, I say that and that's a spell that means I'm nothing. Or I say that and that's a spell that means or that's the curse that says I failed. Or when I say that, that's the curse that means, I'm not loved. Or when I do say that, it kind of means it's the curse that lets me know that I'm alone. Or it's the curse that lets me know that, it's going to go wrong. Or it's the curse that lets me know that, they're all going to stare at me. I was right. Whatever that is, but it's like a deeper impact. Maybe it's followed by memories, an experience, that catchphrase, a quote, an image in your head, but it's a curse. And I say that because emotionally it hits you. And maybe that turns into you not doing something. Maybe that turns into you not doing your best and then absolutely self-fulfilling and making that mistake. Maybe it turns into you avoiding something because we say that curse in our head. Or we look at it through the curse, and it casts this thing over us. And the idea is to try to cast a spell, right? Even saying it like curse and spell, and this is just me taking a look at it, right? Not that I'm an expert of these terms, but it's like, the curse has more of a negative connotation, while spell can be a little bit of both, and maybe more on the positive side. I'd like to think of it that way. And so with a spell, it's like, I am trying to say something perhaps, or maybe that what I'm saying doesn't help, but could I say something better? And that's what we do in therapy. We talk about these moments, and I like to use this metaphor to kind of help clients, explore their own things about this, because I know this stuff is weird to talk about sometimes. And if we can find some kind of instrument to talk about it with, then it helps that client explore further out. So maybe it helps us, right? Think about our own things. So you sit there and look at this statement that we're making, maybe that curse that we're saying, and write that out, write the curse out, right? You start breaking down its power by looking at what it is. So you write the curse down and you start breaking it apart. Maybe you find some hidden meaning in there. Maybe the intention is supposed to be good. I'm supposed to be motivating myself, but I'm sitting here saying, you'll never be, whatever, X, Y, Z. Maybe what I ought to say is something like, come on, don't give up. Don't you want to be that thing that you're really shooting for? It means something to you. And maybe that's a better spell, right? Or maybe we're sitting there about to do something and we get that sense of like we're going to fail. I'm going to make a mistake. And we're sitting there like, I'm going to screw up. I'm going to make this thing. It's going to mess up. They're all going to laugh at me. And instead of that curse, you maybe look at it, we work on it in therapy, and it comes out to a spell, or it's more like, if I make a mistake, I'll learn from it, but I'm trying my best, dang it. I'm just trying to give this out there to the world. We'll see what they think. They can take it or leave it, but I'll learn from any mistakes I make. Maybe that's a better spell to cast. Why? Because a spell, when you've taken time to really look at it, I know like sometimes in the fantasy stories, these wizards and witches and whatnot will sit there and put a lot of attention and focus on the ingredients and the way they're saying the words, and it's like a lot of attention goes into the spell. I look at that as, in reality, it's like, well, you really got to think about what you're saying. So in therapy, we really talk about like, what's that thing you're going to say instead? You know, when you realize you're having this problem in your life where you keep getting stuck, we look at what he's saying. What's that curse? And then instead we want to slowly work on piecing up and building up the new spell. But those words we're going to say, those things we're going to throw out there and cast on us in our mind and try to get enchanted by, they better mean something. And we work towards that. Sometimes we want them to mean something, but working towards that, you find out what exactly that is. Like taking a lump of clay and eventually molding it into something good. And so the thought is like, you go at it with that intention, trying to make sure you're hitting it out of the park each time, trying to think like, I want it to mean this when I say this. I'm trying to tap into this, right? I want to make myself feel motivated, but I can't beat myself up about it. Or I have to look at the reality that I might make a mistake, but I also can't sit there and assume it's going to happen. Right? So you sit there and maybe work at, how do I mold this spell? We work at it in therapy. And eventually you say this thing. Maybe that's why we talk about the storytelling, right? I encourage clients to tell me more about that. Why is that an important thing to say to yourself? And they tell me this story. You know, oh, well, in 5th grade or in high school or this one time with, you know, on this one vacation, something happened, right? A memory. And that's important for them to kind of say, you know, and tell and say out loud. So I encourage you when you're thinking about like your own kind of like, all right, maybe I'll say this to myself, or maybe I'll look at it this way. Really think about why you want to look at it that way, right? Think about a memory, think about a story, think about where that's coming from. Say it out loud, let it cross your mind, tell it to somebody. But make that cross, like cross that bridge, please, you know, process that. And when you have it. Try casting that spell the next time that same moment comes around. Right? Maybe you're trying to get at certain responsibilities, right? Certain things in your adult life you know you need to get to. But every time you get to it, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. Right? Or, oh, I can't because of this. Or, oh, but, you know, I didn't get a chance. That's the curse we're talking about, right? Maybe it's that person you want to talk to, but you don't want to talk to them. And it's like, you know, what are you saying? What's that? Maybe you say excuse. Maybe what's that excuse you're saying? But what is it, the words exactly? Because they must mean something, right? They must have some kind of power, because as soon as you think it that way, look at it that way, say it that way, you follow up with not doing it, right? The avoidance, right? Or the reaction. You know, some people don't avoid, they react or they overreact. And so they might sit there and say something like, well, they must mean this, right? Mind reading. They'll be offended immediately and they think, oh, they're coming from this place. No, they're not. But they immediately jump the gun, and it's like, yeah, why do I have such a reaction? That's such a curse. It's such an impactful curse, that's why. So we'll sit there and work on creating a better spell. You know, make a good spell, work on these spells, you know, nurture them. Build them up over time so they're really powerful. You know, and all the games I used to play when I was in younger times, I was going to say in high school, but it wasn't just high school, it was like college. I play games a lot. I still play games. But like the games, what I mean by like these old role-playing games where you had to be a character. And I remember I like the character, like the wizard or the sorcerer, you know, that stuff. The witch, all that jazz. It was cool because a lot of times you would have to build your spell. Like you might be a level 1, whatever, and it's like I can cast lightning, but it's like lightning 1. And over the course of the game that you'd spend like, you know, time playing with, you know, months or whatever, you would see your character build up, and now they're at like level 2 lightning, level 3, you know, and then they can summon the lightning god or something. And it's cool, right? This building of that spell. And that's how I think of it in real life. You sit there and have a better attitude or perspective about something that you're messing up with or coming across or can't control, or some stress or some issue, some challenge. And if you have a better spell that you put over yourself the way you see it, and not like you're trying to ignore the truth. I mean, you're trying to look at it in a good, rational way, but of course with some level of what's your goal, what's your intention with what's in front of you. I think you're able to build up a really good, strong spell over time. I mean, some people have done it for very much so, that kind of working on it over and over again, thinking about it in that deep way each time. And they already got certain things figured out. Maybe looking at your own self, you do have a bunch of things. You know, you've got some very powerful spells that get you to do what you need to do in your day. That's cool. And sometimes that's part of what we do in therapy, is trying to get people to build up a better spell that they can cast over themselves when they're trying to get a move in their life, or get something going in their life, or do something that they always don't do or whatever, or find a way to do something new. But yeah, so think about that, right? Maybe casting spells versus curses on yourself when you're talking about that self-talk, when you're looking at the self-talk that goes on as you go about your day. Well, I hope that was an interesting idea. Y'all take care for the weekend or for the week, whenever this is coming out. But be good with yourselves, take care, and I'll talk to you next time.